Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. Thanks for joining me, Susanna on the Move. We're back again on our conversation on conscious bias ideology concept. We yesterday we were a little bit cut short when we started the conversation, and we're going to continue today where we left yesterday. So, welcome to those of you that might be joining me for the very first time. Hello. If you're out there, you're joining this for the very first time and you're on Susanna on the Move. If you're joining me, either you're joining me on LinkedIn for the very first time, you came across this conversation on conscious bias ideology concept. My name is Dr. Susanna Olatunji Kamalafe, and I'm the host on this conversation, Susanna on the Move. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, I will appreciate if you can follow me and drop some comments. Watch whatever after watching it, whatever you feel, you can drop some comments, you can send me questions, and you can be part of the conversation as well. You can also see these on YouTube. So if you're watching from YouTube, can you all say hi? All right. And if you're on YouTube, please share this with other people so that people can join us live while we have this conversation. And if you're on YouTube for the very first time or you've watched this before and you're yet to subscribe to the channel, Susanna on the Move, this is the time for you to do that. Click on that button that says subscription. Subscribe to the channel so that whenever I come on live, you can be notified. And I will so much appreciate if you share this with other people within your own circle as well to be part of the conversation. Now, for those that might be watching for the first time or you're coming back for the second time, if you've not watched the series, so this will be the 22nd series, I believe, on this conversation. So if you've not watched all the previous series, this is a time for you after this series for you to go and just see what is the conversation all about, what is this consciousness awareness awakening that is happening, and who is championing this awareness, this conscious awareness, these consciousness of ours, who is awakening this consciousness of us and bringing us to into dealing with all the biases and prejudices that we have. So it is me, Dr. Susanna Olatunji Komolafe, and I will appreciate if you share this with other people. Thank you for joining, and let's start the conversation. So today we're going to talk about the implication of the visible change. We said there's some on this conversation of conscious bias ideology. We as we started this journey, we're talking about different principles that we form the foundation for the conversation, and one of them is awareness, one of them is accountability, and one of them is a visible change. So what we're saying is that when you become aware of of your biases and prejudice, take accountability for it and make sure that we can see a transformative visible change. So I know there's something trending that I might just talk about. So for people in America, this month is their Black History Month, though I don't believe in this ideology of I don't agree with this Black History Month. I myself celebrate the African History Month because I believe every one of us is from the continent of Africa and we should celebrate the continent on its own and highlighting people on the history of the continent. So that's what I agree with. But anyway, in America this month, which is February, and a lot of is their Black History Month. And if you are aware, the president on his page came up with a video. So you can go onto Trump's page, either on LinkedIn, I mean on his X or page anyway, to go and see the video that we're talking about. So there's this despicable video over our former president Obama and his wife, and a lot of people have views on it, but let's come to this consciousness awareness that we're talking about. What you're seeing is someone expressing his own biases and prejudice, but not just against an individual, but against his own self, as in own self, and not just against his own self, but against entire human race, entire human race. And as we talk about the conscious bias, we said we're going to focus on three aspects, which is going to be the foundation on which every conversation that we have on conscious bias is going to be on. And one of those aspects is race. So you can see that this is a man that is expressing his own biases against himself. Can you have a clip for that? Trump is expressing his own biases against himself. So that can be clip. Trump is also expressing his own biases against others. And Trump is also expressing his own biases against entire race of a human race. An entire race of human race. That could be clear. That is what Trump is doing, expressing his own biases. And these are prejudice that he has nurtured within himself. These are prejudice which is that he has nurtured against another race, against other people, against himself that he has battled with. These are prejudices that President Trump has actually, you know, prejudice that he has carried within himself. And what he's doing now is that he's expressing it. Fine. If we are going to apply the framework in which I'm working with, which is the conscious bias framework, what I would expect him to do first is to become aware that he has prejudice against other people's race, or has prejudice against human race, human race, that he has a prejudice against himself, and that he has prejudice against others. He needs to be aware of that and accept it, accept that, oh, this is who I am, this is what I have, this is me. Let him accept it first. And then after accepting it, then he needs to take accountability for it. That they take responsibility for what he's doing, for what he's aware of, for his action. He needs to take responsibility for his action. He doesn't have to be forced to take responsibility for his action. He needs to take responsibility and understand that, yes, these are my prejudices. Take ownership of it, own it, accept it. And then we want to see a visible transformative change in President Trump. He needs to be accountable for it. He needs to take responsibility for what he has become aware of as a leader, as a person, against his own race, against other people, and against himself. So when I say against his own race, because I'm coming from this mindset that we have just one race, human race, and he's prejudiced against this human race. Because if he's not prejudiced against human race, he will understand that he's being prejudiced against himself as a human being. And if that's the only reason he would have done that, so fine, he has done that. Now take ownership of what you've done. You're aware of who you are now, that you are prejudiced. Accept it. Become accountable for your action. Take accountability. And then let us see a transformative visible change. A transformative visible change. I'm hoping that President Trump will allow each one of us to see a transformative visible change from his own prejudice and biases against others. What is a conscious bias? I define a conscious bias as the intentional recognition and shaping of our biases, shaping of our biases, rather than President Trump denying that he didn't see it, he didn't know that it's what it is, or ignoring them, because that's what he's doing, is ignoring his own biases and prejudice. Unlike an unconscious bias, which operates automatically, conscious bias is about choosing to be aware. He needs to choose. So these are the steps I will expect President Trump to take. President Trump needs to choose to become aware of his own attitude and deliberately directing them towards inclusivity and justice. So he needs to now take responsibility, choose. He has to make that choice to accept the fact that this is his own attitude and deliberate directing it towards using that as a transformative change to become inclusive and for justice. So I hope he could do that. And that is the way we see a visible change happening within the community. So the news stories and the old stories. So the whole story is blame and shame. We don't want to start blaming anyone. We don't want to start shaming anyone. There's no need for that. As long as they can take a transformative change, as long as they can take responsibility for what they are doing, accept that this is who they are, their attitude, and deliberately take an action to direct it towards an inclusive and make it for justice and to make a change. So once accountability meant calling out. Once it meant calling out. That's before, unconscious bias, calling it out, spotlighting harm, alarming blame, blaming, requiring apologies and mandatory trainings. This is what unconscious bias looks like. This is the old stories of blame and shame. But with what I'm introducing, what I'm hoping that this could create is a culture of performative guilt and defensive compliance, organizations checking boxes, individuals working on eggshell, and the focus was on who was at fault, not what could be built. So let's stop the blaming, let's stop the shaming. And that is what unconscious bias was all about. There's no need for that. We're moving away from that. We're moving to the new story. And the new story is architecturing responsibility. Architecturing responsibility, which is what I am this is what I pioneered. It is the idea of conscious bias. And like I said, Susanna, in my own case, I'm reframing the accountability not as a punishment for past biases, but as a collective responsibility for future design. And in my own ideology of conscious bias, I demand a higher, more creative form of accountability, the commitment to consciously choose, because these things are made by choices. Which cultural framework shapes our world today? So today we're going to be talking about the three pillars of conscious accountability. The three pillars of conscious accountability. One, accountabilities as a co-design. Accountability as a co-design. So we move from asking who caused the harm to asking who we co-design the repair. Who we co-design the repair. I want that to be clear. So the first one I'm talking about when we talk about the three pillars of conscious accountability. So the first accountability is accountability as a co-design. So we want to move away from asking who caused the harm to asking who co-design the repair. We want to move away from who caused the harm, from asking that question, who caused the harm, to asking who co-design repair and the new system. So examples that I'll give is that instead of repair, reprimanding a manager for overlooking a qualified candidate from a collective culture, we form a design team that includes that candidate, the manager, and a cultural strategist. Together, they rebuild the hiring rubric using framework like Ubuntu. I am because we are. I am because we are, the word Ubuntu. To value communion achievements alongside individual accolades. So the second one is accountability as cultural stewardship. Accountability as cultural stewardship. So leaders are no longer just responsible for hitting targets, but for curating and protecting cultural ecosystem within their own organization. So I'll give you another example for that. That a senior leader, let's say, now include the metrics on framework, pluralism, tracking how many cultural model, indigenous, Eastern, African, diasporic, or etc. that are, where utilizing in decision making that culture. Accountability is measured in cultural biodiversity. So we measure it. We measured it. And I don't want you to see those ones. You know the way when you apply for a job and then there's a section they say to you, or you just want you to take where are you from, what culture, ethnicity, and they ask all this question and they said, oh, you just think that we're just trying to gather information. That's what I was saying. We want to move away from all those idea of people just sticking, just doing things for the sake of doing it, just for them to say, oh yes, they are following it. Oh yes, or we're applying DEI into our own work frame in our places of work, in our policies. We are equal employer. We employ other people, but you employ people into your organization at a low skill rather than giving them what they deserve based on what they are qualified for or what they are capable of doing. We want to move away from all those just sticking up papers. We want to be real and virtual. We want to start seeing transformative visible change, a visible change within our own environment and within our own organizations and companies. So the third pillar of accountability is this. The third pillar of accountability is this: accountability as a proactive legacy. Accountability as a proactive legacy. So we want to shift from reactive damage control. We want to shift from that reactive damage control to proactive legacy building. Every policies, product, and process must answer which cultural future does this create? Example. So I'll give you another example for that. To make it more clear and to give the clarity to it. Before launching a new AI tool, the team must run a conscious bias impact assessment. Before bringing in an AI tool, documenting how the algorithm logically center certain cultural values and marginalize others, and then consciously redesign it to integrate multiple cultural intelligence. So, when we talk about visible in transformative change, and this is what we mean. So from being accountable, from these accountability pillars that we mentioned, we want it to be transformative, and transformative means doing things that are visible. That we why the word visible, transformative, and transform life, and these are visible change that we can see, we can assess it, and it's just becoming practical. Practical implication of visible change. Practical implication of visible change. Practically, making it happen. That's what it's about now. We're tired of the talk, because the talk is getting us nowhere. What we want to do now is to see those visible change. We want to call to conscious architecture. This is what we want to do. We want to see intentional shift in creative equity within our workplaces, within our environment. These are what we want to see. We want to see a call to cultural architecture. We want to see visible change. We want to see all the visible change in terms of conscious bias. We want it to be intentional shift in equity at work. So we want to see those changes and then make it more practical. That's what conscious bias is all about. That is what we want to see. Those changes that transforms life, that makes a difference, that change the way we see our environments, and that change the way we actively or consciously make changes to things. These are the things we want to see when we talk about conscious bias. So, just to have a short break while from the conversation, and just to welcome the people that might be joining me for the very first time. So, if you're joining this for the very first time, let's say this is the first time you're joining, either you're watching me on LinkedIn, please do follow us, so that whenever I have a live on um LinkedIn, you can be notified. And if you're watching me from YouTube channel as well, what I want you to do is to subscribe to the channel and join my community. Because if you go on my YouTube channel, what the name of the YouTube channel is, Susuana on the Move. You can put that into your Google right away. As I'm talking to you, I'm also practically doing that. Go on. Yeah, so this is what you're going to do for me. So get your phone, get whatever you have there, then go onto YouTube and type in Susuana. So type in Susuana on the Move. Um, Susuana on the Move. Now, what I want you all to do for me right now while I'm on live is that I want you, for those of you that are just there watching us live on YouTube, I need you to click on that subscription button right away. Click on it, and I need you to subscribe to it. And then after subscribing, the other thing I need you all to do for me right away, as we're talking the right there now, I want you to also, after clicking on that, I want you to also please share with someone. Don't just click, don't just join in. Share with somebody to join us live right away. Share it with someone to join us live. Join us live so that you can be part of the conversation. So you can see us on those channel. Send me comments. Let me know what you think about the conversation on conscious bias. Are you being accountable? That is the first question. So this is an invitation for you to foster accountability in the age of conscious bias. Means building cultural responsibility into the bedrock of our institution. This is a call for invitation. The invitation now is I'm calling is to fostering accountability in the age of conscious bias, meaning building a cultural responsibility into the bedrock of our institutions. Your institution, my institution, your policies, your schools, your home, let it be the foundation of how you bring up your kids and your family. Let it be a conversation within your family. Talk about it in places of work, in government establishments, private establishments, in parties, in events. Let it be the conversations in everywhere in our industries. It is no longer about shaming the past. We're not interested in that because it doesn't make it different. That is not what we want to focus on. It's not about shaming the past. It's about consciously ushering a more culturally intelligent future. A more culturally intelligent, because we are in the days of, when we talk about intelligent, emotional intelligence, we talk about so many things. This is a time of consciousness we are in. We are in that time of consciousness. So the new story, we are all architectures. We are all part of this. Let us build with conscious intent. Let each one of us build with conscious intent. The new story, this is a new story. That should be clear. This is a new story. We are all architecture. Let us build with conscious intent. So if you're watching me, if you're joining for the first time, I want you to do this hashtag, conscious bias, accountability by design, cultural stewardship, Kamalafe framework, Kamalafe framework, or Susanna Kamalafe framework. So do that while we, you continue to listen, and that we continue this conversation on unconscious bias. So what is the turning point? We've talked about the legacy, we've talked about the accountability, the three different pillars of accountability, which is proactive, negative, cultural stewardship. We've talked about co-designing. These are the three pillars of accountability that we want everybody to take a step on. So what is the turning point? The case of silent innovators. In a global tech firm, we have brilliant engineers from different culture that values listening before speaking, was consistently overlooked in brainstorming sections. So when you have your brainstorming session, and these are conversations that takes place, the old accountability model would have just flagged the loud, assertive team members for dominating conversation. So like I said, that's not what we want. Those are the old ways of doing things. There's no need for you to flag them. There's no need for you to feel that when someone is assertive within the team, and you see them as being dominating the conversation, you just need to listen, see what the conversation is about, see what the conversation is about, and make them feel welcome within the group. So my model is to trigger a different response. So when you have this kind of situation in which you feel um there's someone within the environment that is speaking much assertive. The word assertive is more what I will use, not saying they're speaking loud, but to say they are more assertive, rather than to say, oh, they're being loud, for you to feel that they are dominating that conversation. This is the way you should respond. This is the trigger. These are different responses in which you should do. And this is what I'm introducing. This is Susanna model of trigger. To trigger. Susanna model triggered a different response. I'm triggering a different response. So what Susanna model is triggering is that Susanna model triggered a different response. And the first thing we want you to do is system audit. So the team should identify that innovation contribution was measured by verbal output in real time, a culturally specific bias towards extroversion and speed. Another thing we can do is that, looking back at the tree accountability, when we talk about co-designs, those are the pillars of accountability, is about conscious redesign. Conscious redesign. So with first, I said system audits. System audits is about just auditing what is happening within that space, and putting things into perspective. Secondly, conscious redesign. They integrate the Japanese concept of Nemawashi. This is a consensus building through careful private preparation and the Finnish traditions of silent knowledge. Not killing people's knowledge, not silencing people's knowledge. New protocols, three new protocols like innovation sections now have a pre-silence phase, for written reflection, whereby you get people to just sit back, reflect, Have a silent time, reflect, have it written down, a rotated listening circle, and a post synthesis period where ideas are developed in chosen formats through written, through diagram, through spoken. So you get people to write it down, you get people to visualize it by drawing what they're thinking, what they've written down, how they can visually see it, and then the spoken word, whereby you give people the platform, you give them an opportunity to talk. And this is how we co-design. This is how we consciously redesign how to change things. So, the listing protocol is about innovation section. Now have a, like I said, have a pre-science phase for writing, reflection, a rotated listing circle, and a post synthesized period of it. So accountability metrics, they now track ideas pathway diversity, how many ideas move from one silence to prototypes. So when the ideas start from silence, that will be written, then we have a visual diagram, then we speak about it, and then from there it becomes a prototype, not just from the loudest voice to approval. Not, it's from those silent voices that you allow them to think silently and put this in perspective. The engineering of silence, using silence was no longer a defeat. It was recognized as a different cultural innovation technology. And the team, and within a team, you become accountable, not for who they excluded, but for which cultural genus they failed to design for. So it is not about excluding people because of a cultural differences, which could lead to the way we see our biases, and we treat people, and we only look at those people that are loud within the room, and they are the one we give. But look at those people within your rooms that are silent. So use different methods. So for example, my background is in teaching, and when you're as a teacher, you are taught to use different ways in teaching, different methodologies in teaching, so that when you have in a class, you have different people within your class, and people receive things differently. So one of the things we are required to do now as a teacher is that you use two different methods within the class to teach. So within your class, you see we have different people, and people learn differently. So you have to come up with different ways of actually teaching a specific topic within the class, so that if somebody doesn't resonate with one style, they could resonate with another style. So yes, within your environment, you could have people that are silent. Use that to be able to take that silent from silent to prototype, take those ideas to a finished space. And you have people that are very loud. That's the way they really vocalize their own ideas from the beginning, which is fine. Don't silence any of the room. Don't use your own prejudice or biases to silence them or to put them aside. Accommodate them, encourage them, bring them in, and then let that start from there to finish state. So, with this conscious bias that I'm introducing, an ideology concept that we're talking about, and the framework in which we are creating to allow us to be able to see visible change, transformative visible change. When we talk about diversity, when we talk about equity, and when we are talking about inclusivity. So, inclusiveness, people talk about inclusiveness in so many ways. What this ideology is saying is making sure that you can see a practical implication of your transformative visible change. Make it practical. Let's see it practically. We've gone past the stage of you just talking about things. We want to see visible change. So achieving visible change metrics and reporting. So first we talk about the metrics. Tracking progress is essential to ensure accountability and transparency in our initiative by establishing clear metrics. Having clear metrics, we can measure the effectiveness of our actions and make informed adjustments as necessary. Secondly, by reporting. Transparency. Transparent communication foster trust and encourage collaboration. Collaboration among stakeholders, regular updates on how progress will highlight success and areas for improvement. We reinforce our commitment to visible change. So it's about reinforcing your commitment to visible change in our community. These are essential ways of achieving that visible change. So how to achieve the visible change? The real world impact. Um, the community organizer. So it's an example of Alex Johnson, a community organizer. One, what did that person say? Say participating in Susanna. So this is just testimony of people that have participated in the process that we're talking about. In this process of achieving visible change, and this is what he says. It says, participating in Susanna's workshop transformed my understanding of conscious bias. I learned to appreciate diverse perspective and implement actionable change. Again, don't forget, this is what we are talking about. Implementing a transformative visible change with, within my community, fostering an environment of inclusivity and respect. So that is a testimony from a community organizer. So if you would like to get to know a little bit more about myself, if you want us to uh, come into your organization and reshape the way everybody see diversity, equity, and inclusive, if you want us to change, we frame the way people see DEI, because it has to be seen in a different perspective. The old way of seeing it has to be dropped now, and we have to move to the new phase of consciousness. So we are trying, what I'm trying to do is moving people to the new phase of consciousness. And if you'd like to do that, you can contact me. My email is there. You can go on the website www.adcenter-ireland.com, www.adcenter-ireland.com, and you can drop your details when, if you watch this. I can always reach out to you. I'll reach out to you, and this is give us an opportunity to actually talk a little bit more. So we want to come into your organization. I want to come into your space. I want to come into your organization. I want to come there to come and help, to come and support in how you have your policies in place. But how do you make this happen? So is it happening already? Let's evaluate it. Is it happening? How is it happening? Is it happening as fast as we want it to happen, or is it very slow? So bring in an expert, and I'm the expert that comes in to come and work with you and practicalize and make this come into life. And that's what I will be there to do. That's what I'm coming in there to do. So again, if you're just joining, um if you're just joining and this is your first time of uh, watching these or joining this conversation, so if you're just joining this conversation for the very first time, I want you to go on my LinkedIn page. I'm going to go along with you guys. So as I'm talking now, I'm also going onto the link page. So if you're just here for the very first time, you can see this on LinkedIn. And if you're watching me on LinkedIn, I want you to follow me on LinkedIn. I want you to follow me on LinkedIn. That's the first thing I want you to do. I also, if you're watching me on YouTube, I want you to go on the YouTube channel and and so I want you to go on the YouTube channel and subscribe. Subscribe to follow me and to be part of the conversation. This is the time to do that. Subscribe to follow me and be part of the conversation on YouTube. So whichever way you're watching, either you're watching me on LinkedIn or either you're watching me on YouTube channel, on the YouTube channel, this is a time for you to go and Either you follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Be part of this conversation. Let us come into your organization. Come and work with your organization on making a visible change, on changing how you see things, the concept of conscious bias. So thank you for all of you that have joined today, and those of you that might have joined in the past, those of you that has been watching the channel. It's good to have you on board. Let's create a culture of inclusive. Start with us by creating a culture of inclusion. Creating a culture of inclusion, start with us. So we are here for you to start with us in making that different. And let's come together collectively. Let's come together from the different version of our race. There's only one human race we have. Let us all come together. We come together in making the difference. We come together in shaping the future that you and me want to see. So ask yourself that question. What future do you want to see? What future do you want to see? What is the core principles that you guide yourself with? Are you being aware without intention? So awareness without intention, action is performative. So what is you? Are you just being aware without intentionally choosing to make a transformative change? And what we are saying, what I'm preaching, just like any other pastor will be preaching, what I'm preaching is that let your awareness be with intention. Let your awareness be with intention to take an action that you're accountable for, an action that we can see a transformative visible change. A transformative visible change. This is what we want to see, and this is what we are hoping that we can achieve by doing this. So if you're watching me for the very first time again, I just want to say a big thank you for watching, coming on board to join us. I'm going to play an interlude. And if you're running a business and you're locally based here in Ireland, and you like us to know a little to join the African Caribbean Irish Chambers of Commerce. So if you come across these and you're an African based business and you like
African
to be
Caribbean Irish owned businesses in Ireland paving ways. We believe that African Caribbean Irish owned businesses accuse are integral to the community. He offer employment, life skills, provide vital service, authentic products, and much more to all of us. Join us this month to learn more about Chasiniku businesses and join the African Caribbean Irish owned Chambers of Commerce. We are the future of African Caribbean entrepreneurship. We are the next generation of African Caribbean entrepreneurs and business owners in Ireland. The fastest growing industry in Irish business is African Caribbean owned businesses ACU. The ACU are small businesses owned by people of African, Caribbean and Irish descent. ACU are critical to the economic growth in Ireland and job creation of her local communities.
So thank you very much again for joining me on Susuana on the Move on my YouTube channel. If you're watching from YouTube, for those of you that are on YouTube, I will appreciate that you send your comments, subscribe, click the like button like this, because this will allow many people to see. The more likes on it, the more people that get to see these. And I need your support to be able to push this out as much as I can. So if you're watching on LinkedIn as well, try to like the video, share the video with other people, talk about these. And if you'd like to make contact with me, that's my contact details. You can always contact me and be part of this conversation. And if you want to invite us to come to your organization to help you reshape your DEI, I'm the person for you to contact. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon, and see you all again.